So
Who cares?
So if I come to you right now, let's go back. You're a mortgage broker in Long Island. I meet you in a diner, which is you call your office.
The Imperial Diner in Freeport. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, you go.
We got to make it real.
Yeah.
So it's the Imperial Diner in Freeport on Merrick Road.
Yeah, you say meet me at the office, and I hear you hang up.
We'll spill hot coffee on you by mistake and look at you and go.
Yeah. And when you tell me to meet you at your office, I hear the clang of a payphone when you hang up.
Yeah.
And so I meet you at your office. I come in. I say, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, Mr. Dillon. Me and my wife just got married. I'm a comedian. I saved up about $80K. She wants to live. We're having a baby. She wants to live on the island.
Mr. Pop, I'm very glad.
Can I get a loan?
Not only can you get a loan, but let me tell you something.
Yeah.
How much of that $80K are you prepared to spend on the property?
I don't know, Mr. Dillon. I'm a pretty conservative guy. I saved every single dollar from my more recent shows.
How much are you prepared to spend?
Hold on, let me go into Maurice's brain.
No. Of that $80,000, how much would you like to spend? Are you willing to spend all of it?
I'm willing to spend about 60 or 70 of it.
Mr. Pappas, guess how much of that 80 you're gonna have to spend?
How much?
Nothing.
What?
Nothing. You're not gonna spend anything because let me explain something to you. Sit down. The wife is lovely. Would you like a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Yeah. Can
Mr.
I get
Pappas.
Can I get pancakes while I'm here?
Yeah, you can get anything. The bricks and sticks of your house.
Yeah.
Appreciate. The frame, the land. They appreciate and value. You know what your money does in your house for you, Mr. Pappas? It does absolutely nothing. You know what the wealthiest people do with real estate, Mr. Pappas? A lot of them finance it. Why? Because your mortgage is your only tax write-off. It is the only write-off. It is your only fucking weapon against the federal government. The larger the loan you take, the better it is for you financially. And you take that $80,000, and I'm not wrong, by the way, and you put, well, I'm a little, and you put it in tax-exempt securities like Roth IRAs. Mr. Pappas, you maximize the amount of tax-exempt retirement accounts that you put your money in with that $80,000. You make it work for you. You do not sink it into a house. Yes or yes? So the reality is this. We're taking the biggest loan possible. That, Mr. Pappas, will set you free. Now sign this piece of paper for Christ. And at that point, you and your wife are crying.
Yeah.
And then we sign papers, and you go die.
But how do you get the loan from the bank? They're giving them away.
Back in the day, what are we doing? We're talking about now or back in the day?
No, back in the day.
Yeah, how
Back
did
in
you
the
do
day,
it?
I go to the bank. I said, Kelly, we got one. And Kelly, I said, Mr. Pappas and his wife Brittany's from Long Island. They want to go buy a piece of marble hunk of shit. And Kelly has got Coke running down her nose from last night. She's got a fucking double tall non-fat latte from Starbucks non-fat. She's not kidding anyone. And she nails it down and she says, she makes all the paperwork look like it should look. And then my little shitty bank, which was called Franklin First or New World Mortgage or the Mortgage Zone or the Funding Hut or whatever it is, we send our paper to a fucking even bigger and as similarly shitty bank like a Long Beach Mortgage or a New Century Mortgage or an Argent. And those banks were doing backdoor deals with JP Morgan, Citigroup. So those banks were underwriting the paper to the middle grade banks that were lending money to the dirtbag brokerage operating out of a van places that I worked. Okay?
Right.
So when this all, you ever played a game of hot potato?
Yeah, it's an orgy, yeah.
So when everything goes wrong,
You pass it around.
we're passing it around.
Yeah.
And then by the time you sign your mortgage, by the time you get your first bill, because the other benefit, Mr. Pop, is you don't pay for 2 months.
Right.
For 2 months, you don't pay.
But
That's
are you
two-
sure I'm going to be able to afford this mortgage? My stand-up comedy career is up and down.
Mr. Pappas, I have watched your stuff. I think you're a genius.
Thank you.
And I think you're an absolute genius. And I will tell you this right now. All you have to worry about right now is what are you going to do with those?
I'm just a little worried. I'm not past the cellar. Am I going to have a future?
You're going to have a cellar in the home that we put you in. All you have to worry about, Mr. Pop, is what are you going to do with those 2 free months? Because we're rolling it into the mortgage. You've got 60 days. I would take a little vacation with this lovely lady.
Are you serious?
2
Because I was concerned I even had enough for the mortgage before this.
2 free months.
What?
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
you're saying free. Am I going to have to pay at some point for this down the line?
We're rolling it into the mortgage, which, again, we talked about. It just increases your tax deduction. If you could, Mr. Pappas, you'd take a loan every day.
Honey, do you think, I mean,
Every day you would take a loan because the federal government is coming to take your hard-earned money. I am telling you, Your ability to fight them is contingent on how big this mortgage is. Take all your credit card debt, all your car loans, everything, student loans, roll it into this, refinance it. Let's take $100,000, $200,000. Let's do it. Let's make it big. And let's do it once and do it right. That's a great line. That's a line one of our guys had. Let's do it once and do it right. And then he'd call them back 8 months later, and they'd go, you said we were going to do it once and do it right. He goes, let's do it twice and do it better. But that's what we need. That's the only way the economy's get. Like, you guys can laugh at that. That's the only way the economy is going to get
on a bubble. On a
retards
you need criminals back.
Have to sell things to other retards.
But everything you explained, none of that is criminal at all. It's just
I wouldn't go so far as to say that. Yeah,
but what's criminal
none
about
of it was criminal. I didn't really do the criminal shit. The criminal shit was really, and it was just 'cause I'm a pussy. It's not because of morality. The criminal shit really was. Well, we did a little criminal stuff. The lying. The people that would go, my cousin owns a car dealership on Northern Boulevard. Who's going to say that I've worked there for the last 6 years and made $80,000 a year.
And they look the other way and go, let's approve them for the mortgage.
But by the way, that's kind of soft fraud because the bank was not. It wasn't fake documents. It was literally they were accepting honor system.
Let me ask you this
which
question.
Which is crazy.
How did this orgy get started is my first question. My second question is, when did you know it was over? And my third question is, can you compare it to stand-up comedy? 3 questions.
When the orgy got started after, it started two places. It started with the Community Reinvestment Act under the Clinton administration. A lot of things that end up being very bad start with good, positive things. And like, basically, people were saying you got to start expanding.
Like communism.
Right. You got to start expanding lending in minority communities and low-income communities. You got to expand opportunities to credit. People need to be able to finance things, get into the American system. They don't have that opportunity. They're denied by banks all the time. We need to stop that. So Community Reinvestment Act planted the seeds in the heads of Wall Street people and financial industry executives that they needed to come up with products that allowed them to lend to traditionally riskier borrowers that might have had less income, less credit, less whatever. And so what then happened was after 9/11, the economy was in a recession, and Alan Greenspan, they cut rates, Fed cut rates, and then the party started where it was like. Now it was like, hey, get in.
Let's kickstart the economy by selling some loans.
Yeah, we got to get some houses going on. And then it was a real estate boom, a construction boom, all of these exotic financial products that allowed you to pay 1 or 2%, like a credit card
that's on
minimum
the way again.
payment.
That's on the way.
Sure, some version of that will be on the way.
Yeah.
Those financial products were then bundled up and sold to investment funds. And then people, and we're so interconnected, what really fucked everything was like people's pensions were tied into these funds that were wrapped up with very toxic assets, which was the term, which was bad mortgages. Mortgages given to people that had no ability to repay them. And that's the mortgage-backed security, which was invented by a guy named Lou Ranieri, who's profiled in The Big Short. That was when they decided that mortgages should be traded and sold between banks and investment institutions like stocks. Your bank used to hold your mortgage. So early on, you would go to a mortgage bank and you would have the bank. I mean, so many scenes in old movies are a guy arguing with the banker. It's been rough this month. It's the banker that gave him the mortgage. He knew the guy. It was a very localized thing. I know him. I know his farm. I've been to his farm. I know what he brings in. And then everything got very global, where like I would give you a mortgage and sell it to Giannis, and then Giannis would sell it to Pimp, and then Pimp would sell it to Schultz, and then Schultz would sell
Chase would sell your mortgage to Fannie Mae or something. Yeah.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are GSEs. They're government-sponsored entities, meaning they're not technically government-controlled, but they're government-sponsored, meaning the government. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are essentially why we have, some stability in the mortgage market, meaning that they back the loans. They, not explicitly, but they ensure that these loans are good, and they protect banks who issue these loans. And Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are, one of the reasons we have a 30-year mortgage. You have a stability over 30 years as a financial instrument that's kind of unheard of, and it's not common everywhere in the world. It's very uncommon. I mean, a lot of places there's only 10-year notes. A 30-year fixed note is a financial
They
product.
want you working your
This
whole
is
life
why,
to
like
pay
the
it back.
libertarians and stuff, when they start talking about like, oh, the government's always been involved in everything.
Yeah.
The government's allowed all of this to happen. So this idea that like you can uncouple from the government is just not realistic. It might have been. I'll give them this. It might have been better to not have the government do all of these things. Sure, academically, great, but the reality is, even just looking at the mortgage market, the reason and the real great book, if anyone has an interest in this, is written by Bethany McLean, and it's called "All the Devils Are Here." And it's about it's from a great Shakespeare play. All the devils are here. Bethany McLean also wrote one of the most influential articles. She's a reporter for Fortune, and she wrote one of the most influential articles that's ever been written in finance, and it was called "How Does Enron Make Its Money?" And it was the first article that kind of pierced the facade of the Enron Corporation.
So that book, All the Devils Are Here, is about what
it's
you're
about
saying.
the mortgage crisis.
Depends on who you blame more.
Here's what it is.
Was it more predatory lending?
It's like Joan Rivers said on that episode of Louie, know when you're lucky.
Yeah.
Know when you're lucky. There's this idea and our economy is built on this model of perpetual growth.
Right.
Everything's got to be bigger and bigger and bigger. The house has got to be
America,
bigger.
yeah.
The pool's got to be deeper. The yard has got to be bigger. The debt has got to be bigger.
You got to know when to hand. You got to know when to. You got to know when to cash in.
It's the disease of more.
Right.
The disease of more.
Right.
And it was those Wall Street guys weren't poor before they started slinging these things. They weren't poor. But they got, in the last 10 to 15, 20 years, people in that line of work have gotten astronomically wealthy.
Sure.
A level of wealthy that most people don't understand. I'm talking about many of them are earning $1 billion in a calendar year or over $100 million in a calendar year.
Right.
Not 30 million, not $1 million a month, not $2 million a month, not $5 million a month. We're talking in cases 20, 30 million dollars a month. The guys at the top of those institutions, they've become so fucking like dislocated from this. There is a real fucking problem with that type of money.
So on the deepest level, it was the disease of more on the side of those who were getting the loans and on the side of people who were giving the loans.
Correct.
Right.
It's
Gotcha.
all across the board.
It's the American dreams.
And I knew it was over when I was in a diner. In the same diner, I said to the waiter, I said, hey, my order at the diner is always mozzarella sticks. Also, I'd like a grilled cheese with turkey because I'm turning over a new leaf.
And then I asked the waitress, where's the closest Carvel?
Yeah. Grilled cheese with turkey and tomato. I'm turning over a new leaf. I didn't say bacon. I said turkey. Now, let me ask you a question. If bacon goes in a sandwich with the turkey, coleslaw, French fries, lightly cooked. But don't burn them. Don't give me the excuse that people aren't paying attention in there. So, so I said to the waiter, he goes, what do you guys do? I said, I do mortgages. He goes, what a coincidence. I do mortgages. And then the guy that was handing me my mozzarella sticks took out a card from his top pocket and put it on the diner table. And that's kind of the way I felt, about a year and a half ago in comedy when everyone you knew was a comedian.
Yeah.
The problem is when everybody, it's the secret's out. It's like, you ever go to a good restaurant?
So that's when you knew it was over, when everyone was getting in.
Yeah, well, you ever
when
go to
it got oversaturated.
Let me use a food example, which I don't talk about food a lot. You go to a good restaurant, it's great. Then you cruise by it on a Saturday night, and it's jammed. And you go, I hope in a year from now we don't end up going back and going, this place sucks. But a lot of times that happens. A lot of times when it's the secret place and they're on the come up, they're on the rise, everything's great. But when it explodes and everybody's in and everybody's got their hand in the trough, then all of a sudden people start making stupid decisions. They start making bad decisions. And the people start making decisions that are nowhere near the actual decisions. Which is why communism, all these isms don't work, is because people are making decisions from 30,000 feet about disciplines they have no fucking idea about how they actually work. Right?
Right.
So when the government just goes, hey, find a way to lend to low-income people, and Wall Street goes, we got it, the government has no idea what's about to happen.
Right.
And then the ones that kind of have an inkling just keep their mouths shut because things are good. Bush goes, 70% of Americans own homes. Trump has done nothing but extend what Obama did, which is extend what Bush did, which is essentially just tell people to put it all on a credit card. That's just the whole thing. the economy is just on the card. We'll think about it later. I mean, we owe, what is it, 20 trillion
At
to China?
this point, it's you don't.
It's
the
fake
number,
now.
You can't even say the number anymore.
Yeah.
There's not. It's not an.
They got to
existable
think
number.
of a new word in the English language to describe the amount.
The economy is just on the card. It's on layaway. It's like,
How does that?
interest rates are
How
going to
does
have.
that? What happens when that culminates? Where does that end? As all things end, what happens? How do we reconcile?
I mean,
that?
inflation is where it ultimately leads to the devaluing of the dollar not being the world's reserve currency. Our debt rating getting trashed to we're not a good debtor anymore.
So that means we're
Losing
over as an empire.
Yeah, AAA bond rating and all that. Yeah, that's where it leads. And then it just leads to...
what you're talking about there is the actual rotting of the infrastructure of the empire.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
That's inevitable.
Our inability to service our debt, our inability to, basically print the kind of money that we've been printing to keep everybody off the streets, which hasn't worked.
This is when you become a bad earner in the mafia and you get whacked.
You can become a
get
bad
whacked.
earner. Yeah, you
we're
become a bad earner.
right now. We're a bad earner. We got a lot of
It's
debts.
when somebody in the mafia movie starts looking at a picture of you from the good times with a sadness in their face.
Yeah.
They take a picture, they look at you when you guys all went to like Aruba and you went, that was fun.
He used to earn.
That's
he
where
used to
we're
be
that's
good.
where we're getting to.
He's got a lot of debts now. We don't know how to really get him out
But
of this.
I think business is common. It could be weed, it could be prostitution. I think you got to legalize weed, legalize prostitution. Day one of Biden or Trump's new administration, whores are in, weed is in. We do not have a choice.
Jumpstart the economy, baby.
We don't have a choice.
We really hope you enjoyed that episode, whatever it was about. This is just a stock thing that we're taping onto every episode. So go make sure you rate, review us, subscribe, turn on your notifications, get jiggy with it.
And go to patreon.com/Bay Ridge Boys where things get really wild.